Marketing agility is a term which is both interesting and relevant in these times. Now, marketing agility or agile marketing is a term that is borrowed from the project management, especially in software development and computer science. Agile management talks about the speed and the adaptability in which the management adapts itself to the changing dynamic environment. So since marketing is a function that is in very close interaction with the surroundings, it has to be agile. There is no doubt about it. So whenever there is a best practice that is there in any other domains, different functions, different industries, try to get lessons from those best practices and adapt that into their domain. So marketing also does that. So what why is agility important in marketing? We all know that we are living in a VUCA world which is very volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. The pandemic resulted from the COVID uh, virus. We know that has actually changed the way we look at the environment, the way we look at the various factors that affects the businesses, and these kind of very dynamic world which is characterized by constant change and also an ambiguous and uncertain future has resulted in the way we look at marketing as a function. And of course, there is huge amount of competition coming from different places, from different industries, from different categories. There is a blurring of different categories. For example, what right now is a watch. It's very difficult to define. It's not only a time piece, but it is also a software device. Okay, it's also a health device. Uh, so the competition, the nature of competition is also changing. So when there is this huge dynamism that is involved, marketing cannot remain static. So the term itself talks about marketing being very agile, or it is kind of constantly moving in uh, tune with the times. Now, is it a new concept? Obviously, it's not a new concept. Marketing has always been very dynamic, but what has happened is that when we introduce new terms like agile marketing, it gives a fresh perspective to see whether we are doing it earlier or whether we are doing it now. A new term or a new jargon will renew the interest of both practitioners as well as academicians. So, an interesting article came in Journal of Marketing, which is one of the most premier journals in marketing in 2021, which really talks about what exactly is marketing agility. And the authors have made an effort to define marketing agility. And there is a lot of learning that we can get from this article as such. So, how do the authors define marketing agility or agile marketing? So, the authors have looked at marketing agility as the extent to which an entity talks about a company or a firm which rapidly iterates. So, that's a term which is very important. Uh, Iteration means that you constantly experiment in simple language, and between making sense of the market and executing marketing decisions to adapt to the market. So, what exactly the authors are trying to talk about agility? They are talking in terms of three dimensions of marketing agility. One is that there is a sense making. Okay, so here we have that term now, making sense. The second is that it constantly iterates. Okay, and there is a rapid execution. So if you look at what exactly marketing agility is on a conceptual point of view, it has three basic dimensions or components. One is about the sense making. Now, what do you mean by sense making? We all know what is sense making. It is conceptualizing. Okay, so in a very dynamic okay, world or environment, uh, conceptualizing what can happen in the future is very important. Say, for example, right now we are in a pandemic. Businesses are finding it very difficult to sustain. So, can you conceptualize the future? It's a very tough task, but we all know that only those businesses will survive which can conceptualize the future even at this very uncertain environment, and also make or plan actions so that in future when the pandemic goes down, businesses started operating into the fullest sense, you will be able to probably make good of whatever losses that you have made. So can you look at the future at this uncertain times and make sense of it? It's a very very difficult process. It's very easy to sit on a chair and then profess about sense making. Practitioners will vouch for the difficulty, but you have to make sense of this ambiguous and uncertain world, because only when you make sense out of it you will be able to create some kind of a plan and think about implementing or executing that plan. So sense making is very important in an agile marketing point of view. So you look at the environment, you look at a lot of scenarios that can play out. Okay, and then you have various plans for it. So that is where the second term comes in, iteration. Agile marketing, the authors says, uh, uh, puts a lot of emphasis on rapid iteration. So this iteration talks about experimentation. Okay. So you have a plan, you're planning in an uncertain environment. So you may have a set of plans, you finalize on a particular plan, and you start uh, implementing it. Okay, and when you implement it, what will happen is that you will get a lot of feedbacks. Okay, and based on those feedback you modify your plan. So it is not that you have one plan and you execute it and that is it. It's not like that. When you talk about agile marketing, it's the same in the agile management also. You are constantly getting feedback from the market or the environment and you are constantly changing your plans based on the feedback. See, this is not the kind of thing that we do in a very stable market. Why? Because when you're in a stable market, you can see that the feedback will not be dynamic in nature. But when you are in a very complex and very uncertain and ambiguous market, you don't know what will be the outcome because you cannot predict your outcome. So there will be a constant feedback, positive and negative, and you should be wise enough to change your plans based on the feedback. The third aspect of agile marketing is the speed. So in the definition, the authors talk about rapid iteration. Okay, you should be willing to implement a plan quickly, get the feedback, and make changes in a very very quick manner. Okay, so when you do that, now you are practicing agile marketing as such. Uh, so now what does it make sense? Does it make sense to a practitioner? Does it make sense to an academicians to have one more concept like an agile marketing? It definitely makes sense because we are living in a very in an era where which probably we don't have any reference to this kind of a very uncertain world right now caused by this pandemic. So when you are facing new kind of situations, you may need new concepts. You may have to probably refresh something that probably has been practiced before and put it in the perspective of the current VUCA world. And second is that you can borrow a best practice from another industry and implement that in the marketing domain. So in that sense, the author's view of marketing agility makes really sense in an marketing theoretical perspective. So is it something that is very drastic or something that is very new? It is not, because it is almost similar to the concepts like design thinking, agile management in the IT industry, and marketing orientation. Again, that's an old concept which again talks about the capability of an organization to uh, look at the environment and rapidly adapt. So this concept is not that different. But what the authors have said is that it has given a definition to agile marketing. It has identified certain dimensions and a framework. And at this point in time, when we are facing this pandemic, it is very, very relevant. Uh, the article again then talks about a lot of other conceptual elements of agile marketing, but this is basically what the concept is, and I think that this is a concept which will be discussed a lot in the coming months. Till the environment becomes stable. So in that sense, it is always nice to look at these new concepts, which is very, very relevant. So thank you all for listening.